I'm joined today by David Ray Griffin, who's Professor Emeritus of Philosophy of Religion and Theology at the Claremont School of Theology and Claremont Graduate University, and author of Unprecedented: Can Civilization Survive the CO2 Crisis? The book is so interesting in that it talks about pragmatic solutions to our energy needs. But before we get into that, give us a little bit of the background in terms of the social failures that have gotten us to where we are today with regard to our use of fossil fuels.
Yes, the whole part of my book, about a third of the book, is devoted to these problems that, there's no problem with the science. The scientists agree almost 100%. It's more like 98, 99% that fossil fuels are causing global warming. Global warming is causing the climate change, and that if it continues, then the existence of civilization is actually in danger. And yet, we have this enormous enterprise known as climate denialism. And the fossil fuel industries, particularly ExxonMobil and the coke industries, have spent literally millions, we're up in the tens of millions, and over $100 million funding groups around the world, primarily in America, but also other places of the world, to constantly claim that the worry about climate change is a hoax, and that we shouldn't be worried, and actually fossil fuels are good for us, and so on.
And corporate media has been quite complicit in this, have they not? I mean, with regard to the kind of false balance game they play, where in spite of the 99 to 1% consensus you talk about among scientists, they will have one guest with the hoax point of view and one guest with the science point of view, sort of presenting this as a real 50-50 controversy.
That's right. John Oliver did a great show one night where, instead of having one-on-one like that, he said, let's have a representative debate. And so he brought out his climate denialist, and then and then the climate scientist, and then said, now we need to get this appropriate. And so he brought on one more denialist, and then 97 more scientists. And so if you had a debate going on like that, 98 to 2, it would be much more accurate the way it is. But they try to maintain that there's a real debate within the scientists. And that's just a lie. There is no debate whatsoever. There are details, but there's no significant debate. And the few climate scientists who do mouth that other point of view, we found out they've been funded by ExxonMobil and other fossil fuel industries. So yes, I argue in the book that the major problem, the ones who are primarily at fault here, are the media, the major media, because the fossil fuel industries, they do what they are supposed to do. They're supposed to make money, and so they're doing their job. And now they're doing it at the risk of destroying civilization, but nevertheless, they're doing what they normally do. But the media, they are supposed to give us some sort of objective presentation of the facts and what the dangers are, and so on, and they simply haven't done it. You've got one major exception, and that's The Guardian, which is both a UK and American uh, network, but not network, but station, and uh, uh, newspaper, and they actually recently have launched a campaign along with 350.org to really ramp it up, to get this somewhere in the level it ought to be, where we should be presented with this evidence every day, and not once every few weeks about this. So that's the problem.
So that gives us, I think, some good context, and for most of our audience understands that part. The ones that don't probably are not going to be convinced by our conversation. So let's address what I think your book does in a really interesting way, which is talking about solutions and a transition to clean energy from dirty energy. You say in the book that you think that by 2035, we could have, in the US and worldwide, 70% of our energy come from clean energy sources, and even 100% by 2050, both US and worldwide. So walk us through this. First of all, what forms of energy would make that up?
Well, the two most important thus far are solar energy and wind energy. And part of the lie of the fossil fuel corporations is to tell us, oh, well, they're nice. It's sweet to have those things. But really, they can't do much to take care of our energy needs.
Well, I'm glad that you're addressing this. That was going to be my question. The detractors say solar power is not nearly advanced enough to truly have the efficiency needed to provide a significant portion of our energy. And wind is also just not efficient enough. It's only a drop in the bucket. Do you refute that?
Yes, and actually, even right now, we could be, if we'd been working on this the way we should have been over the last decades, we could have most of our energy provided by clean energy. And the other lie they have continued to spread is that it'll be much too expensive to use clean energy rather than coal and natural gas and oil. And actually, the costs have gone down so dramatically, the cost for solar energy and wind energy, that there are some places, even apart from any subsidies, the wind and the solar energy are in certain places less expensive already. Well, if we were doing what we should be doing, that is not subsidizing fossil fuels, we're subsidizing it 10 times as much as we do clean energy. It's just crazy.
So that's a key point, I think, that a lot of people don't realize. When you hear the cost comparisons per unit of energy produced, it's not being considered that the cost we cite, the low cost we talk about with fossil fuels, is one that is already subsidized by the government.
That's right. And, normally subsidies are for the sake of encouraging things that we want people to use and discouraging things we don't want them to use. Well, clearly, we don't want more fossil fuel energy and more carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere and the ocean. And yet, nevertheless, our subsidy rates is 10 to 1 on the other side. It's just nuts. And so if we were just not subsidizing either side, neither the clean nor the dirty energy, we would immediately start making the big transition. Because if you start factoring in the health costs of coal, for example, and also natural gas, they're claiming that it's so clean. It's not much better than coal, if any, altogether, all things considered. And so if we could just get rid of the subsidies, that would take care of a big part of the problem. And then if we also did what we should be doing, that is taxing carbon, and all economists agree on this, even the most conservative economists agree that fossil fuels should be taxed. So if we did those, we could transfer over. Yeah, so the 2030 or 35 projection, that could happen very quickly.
We have very limited time left, but one more thing I want to get your thoughts on is what is the most important step one and step two here? We see some transition to electric vehicles, for example, but the electricity is still coming more than likely from a dirty energy source. Is that still how we should be working? Kind of go from the ground up, first get the cars off of gasoline, then get the electricity that powers them off of dirty energy? Or is there another way to work this?
Well, you wouldn't want to say first and then this. They need to be done simultaneously, and they're equally important. And if we could take care of the two problems, the lack of a carbon tax, and then the getting rid of the subsidies for dirty energy, then that would take care of that, both for electricity and for home heating and businesses, buildings, but also automobiles and trains, and even airplanes are moving in that direction. And so we could do this if we had more of a level playing field, and then if besides the level playing field we had a carbon tax. The technology, it is coming along very quickly in all of these areas. And once the price is adjusted to be what it ought to be, it'll go much, much faster.
We've been speaking with David Ray Griffin. The book is Unprecedented: Can Civilization Survive the CO2 Crisis? Very, very interesting book. Thanks so much for joining us.